Hi everybody, I'm Jason Colthorp from WILX TV 10. My book that I'm going to talk about today is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It's a book that was published right around the turn of the century in 1900 and tells the story of an immigrant who comes to America from Europe, Eastern Europe, with the visions of capturing the American dream. And he brings his family. It turns out to be more family than he anticipated, extended family. And things don't go well. He's looking for the big job and lots of money, and he has a job, loses the job, and the story that ensues is one of despair and poverty and death as this family just gets eaten up by the American machine. That's definitely not the American dream. It's banned or challenged in a lot of areas because it was deemed to have socialist views. The writer, Upton Sinclair, had socialist values or views, and that might back then seemed like a big deal. Today it probably usually wouldn't, but socialism has now become a bit of a hot button issue again, so who knows what will happen to this book. It probably won't get banned, but the reason it should never be banned, I feel like Kevin Costner's wife in Field of Dreams standing up, we're talking about banning books. Overall, we should never ban any books. It should be a choice. Let folks decide what's right for them, what's right for their children. This book especially does a lot of good. Forget about the viewpoints of the author or whatever. It brings about, in the telling of the story, Upton Sinclair went undercover and he went into the factories of Chicago in America, and it found such horrific working conditions of the workers and the food that they were making that President Teddy Roosevelt at the time, who didn't agree with this writer, he didn't like him and he was a believer in the socialist views of him, or was against that, he appointed a commission to go look at this, look at the charges he made in this novel, which some of the examples are really outrageous and horrific. One even included a man falling to his death in part of the machinery, and they just kept on making the food, and that went into the food, and that was reported by Upton Sinclair in this book as something that happened regularly in the food industry. So very scary allegations. Well, these guys went, and even though the companies and the factories had weeks ahead of time, knowing that they were coming to clean this up, to prepare, these people were still horrified at the conditions that the companies were in and the way the food was produced. So not only did it shake America awake about the situation there, it led to the government creating the FDA, one program that later became the FDA, which obviously stands for making sure our food is safe to eat. And more to my industry, in journalism, it set a tone of investigative journalism that Upton Sinclair kind of started, most notably the Muckrakers, which were this group of journalists that went out looking to do what he did, and that's find injustices, find places that were just failing the average person in America, things that were making people unsafe and that needed to be changed, whether it was more government or regulation or whatever. And just in general, books that, even though it tells kind of the darker side of America in this time, the turn of the century, how cold America can be, we should never, ever shy away from any period in American history when we educate the kids of today and tomorrow. They should know about all of it, the darker parts of our history, because for better or for worse, it's our history. And this is a perfect example, this book, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, of America at its best and its worst.